भाबा वाह हुसैना का हुआ शोर हरम में बरपा हो के रुखसत जो चले घर से शहे करबला सुन के ये दौड़ी सकीना के ठहर जाओ जरा एक बार और मुझे गोद में ले लो बाबा भाबा सीने से सकीना को लगाते जाओ अब कहाँ होगी मुलाकात बताते जाओ तुमको अकबर की कसम गुंचा दहन का सदका एक बार और मुझे गोद में ले लो भाबा शैन बच्ची का जो ये हाल परेशान देखा शैन बच्ची का जो ये हाल परेशान देखा रोक के फरमाया कि क्या हाल मेरी माँ है लका जोड़ के नन्हे से हाथों को सकीना ने कहा एक बार और मुझे गोद में ले लो बाबा अब न प्यासी हूँ न पानी की ज़रूरत है मुझे अब न प्यासी हूँ न पानी की ज़रूरत है मुझे कोई हाजत नहीं बस इतनी सी हसरत है मुझे देख लूं आज मैं जी भर के तुम्हारा चेहरा एक बार और मुझे गोद में ले लो भाबा सोचती हूँ कि तमाचे कोई मारे ना मुझे सोचती हूँ कि तमाचे कोई मारे ना मुझे गोशवारे कोई कानों से उतारे ना मेरे वहम आते हैं मेरे दिल में न जाने क्या क्या एक बार और मुझे गोद में ले लो भाभा सलवात।
Shukriya, Sayyid Muzaffar Tirmizi Saab, for that lament of Bibi Sakina alayhi salam. Just an announcement that somebody has dropped a ring. If they wish to collect it, they can do so from me. I'd now like to request Sayyid Khamis to step forward and pay his salutation and lament to Abu Abdullah. And just a reminder that we had prayed Ziyarat Ashura. It is recommended that we offer 2 rak'ah of salah after it. So once you get a chance, perhaps after the Majlis, you can do so in your time.
किए हैं शिम्र ने दो कत्ल, किए हैं शिम्र ने दो कत्ल, एक खंजर से किए हैं शिम्र ने दो कत्ल, एक खंजर से लहू हुसैन का पोंछा बहन की चादर से, लहू हुसैन का पोंछा बहन की चादर से, किए हैं शिम्र ने दो कत्ल, एक खंजर से गरीब ज़हरा वहीं रोते रोते मर जाता, बहन उठा के ना लाती जो लाश अकबर से, किए हैं शिम्र ने दो कत्ल, एक खंजर से किसी ने बालों से पकड़ा, कोई उठा के चला, सरे हुसैन को मारा, किसी ने पत्थर से, किसी ने बालों से पकड़ा कोई उठा के चला सरे हुसैन को मारा किसी ने पत्थर से किए है शिम्र ने उसे उठाया है बाबा की लाश से ऐसे के फिर सकीना नहीं सोई शिम्र के डर से के फिर सकीना नहीं सोई शिम्र के डर से किए है शिम्र ने दो कत्ल एक खंजर से लबे हुसैन पे हंस हंस के मारता था छड़ी लबे हुसैन पे हंस हंस के मारता है छड़ी यजीद खेल रहा था सरे हुसैन से किए हैं शिम्र ने दो कत्ल एक खंजर से लहू हुसैन को पोंछा बहन की चादर से किए हैं शिम्र ने अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला
Thank you, Sayyid Khamis. Once more, a humble request to the brothers to please come right to the front. I will, when I finish, move this out of the way. So there will be space all the way across here. So that, could you just please, I don't want to interrupt the Sayyid during the MAQTAL, please. Just sit on the floor, sit anywhere, right to the front. There's space here at the front, there's a carpet over there. There's plenty of space at the front. Can I also make a humble request that whilst the Sayyid is reciting the MAQTAL, please can you switch off your mobile phones? Kindly do not record the MAQTAL or put any of the videos on the social media, please do not make any recordings. I'd be humbly grateful for that. If you have young children and you think that they would be better settled in the other room, you're more than welcome to use the creche. But if you wish to stay and if you wish to listen to the MAQTAL of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, then please do so. Dear brothers and sisters, today is the day of Ashura, the 10th day of Muharram. Our master Hussein, the son of Zahra, may peace be upon them both, has been mercilessly martyred in a wilderness far away from home. This day our hearts go out to the Imam of our time, the inheritor and the successor of Hussein, Imam al-Hujjah, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. Today there is a great heaviness upon his heart. Today, let us remember the tragedy of our master Hussein and what he stood for, and share in the grief of our Imam, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. May our parents be his ransom. Today we lack the heart to truly capture what happened, but the Imam of our time sees it as though it was happening right in front of his very eyes. Hussein's companions, friends of old, fellow travelers, those who had joined him on the way, Nafi bin Hilal, the man going home with the horse, Zuhair ibn al-Qayn, the chivalrous knight who had initially wanted to avoid him, Habib, the friend of his childhood, Abis, the son of Shabib, the lion of lions, John, the aged manservant, those men who had heard him speak and saw through the web of fake news and switched sides, Hur, the free man, Abu Sumama, the man who had remembered the time for prayer in the thick of battle, the men who had stood guard and took arrows as they all prayed, Wahab, the Christian bridegroom from Najran, even his wife, all gone, slaughtered, showered with arrows, pierced with spears, beheaded, trampled by horses, even stoned to death. Hussein's dutiful brothers, his doting nephews, Qasim and Abdullah, his loyal cousins, the sons of Aqil, the sons of Ja'far, the sons of his uncle, the sweet brothers of his orphan, the sons of his sister, the true likeness of the Prophet, his youthful Akbar, the shade of his heart, the coolness of his eyes, the mighty warrior that never called him brother, who went forth to the river in search for water for Hussein's young daughter, all of them gone. They went into battle one after another and came back not hither. Even his darling Asghar, the 6-month-old infant, dying from the pangs of hunger, from want of water, murdered, no slaughtered, by an arrow 3-pronged in the arms of his father. The enemy showed no humanity. They spared none of them. All of them gone, yet all still remain, fallen upon death, satiated by the sweetness of martyrdom, alive, eternal, living in our remembrances, in our hearts. From morning to afternoon, Hussein has carried them back to his pavilion. His face is glowing, luminous, resplendent in calamity, unwavering in courage, the personification of fortitude, bearing it all with great dignity despite the great atrocity, the warrior son of the warrior father. To listen and to pay tribute to Imam al-Hussein, to his tragedy, for his MAQTAL, please welcome Sayyid Mahdi al-Modarresi with the loudest of your voices. with the warmest of your salawats.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله صلى الله عليك وعلى آل بيتك المظلومين الغر الميامين روحي وأرواح العالمين لكم الفداء صلى الله عليك يا مولاي وابن مولاي يا أبا عبد الله يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة ويا عبرة كل مؤمن ومؤمنة غريب عطشان عريان يا مظلوم كربلاء سيدي يا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز والله فوزا عظيما. Imam al-Rida, our eighth Imam, says, إن يوم الحسين أقرح جفوننا وأسبل دموعنا وأذل عزيزنا. The day of Hussein has bruised our eyes, forever shed our tears, وأورثنا الكرب والبلاء. It has given us trial, misery, tribulation في أرض كرب وبلاء. Abu Dhar al-Ghifari, the companion of Rasulullah, when he was being exiled out of the city of the Prophet by the third Khalifa, he was seen crying. They said to him, we haven't done much to you. All we're doing is throwing you out of the city. He said, I am crying for the one who will be ambushed with his family in Karbala. Then he said, I have heard from Rasulullah, who said to me, if you could only see how the heavens cry for him, how the beasts cry for him, how the damsels in paradise cry for him, if you could only hear their cries, لَبَكِيتُمْ حَتَّى تَزْهَقَ أَنفُسُكُمْ, you would cry until you died of grief. Ya Hussein. Imam al-Sadiq says, whoever takes the day of Ashura as his day of grief and lamentation, the day of judgment will be his day of happiness. Whoever cries for Hussein, that I will not be crying on the day of judgment. Who cries the most on this day? It is Hujjat ibn al-Hasan al-Mahdi, the one who laments his grandfather in what is known as az-ziyaratul jami'ah. He says, As-salamu ala man nukithat dhimmatu. Peace be upon the one whose pledge was broken. As-salamu ala man hutikat hurmatuh. Peace be upon the one whose sanctity was violated in more ways than one. السلام على من أريق بالظلم دمه السلام على المغسل بدم الجراح. Peace be upon the one who was so wounded, blood was gushing out of all of those wounds. His body, instead of being bathed with water, was bathed with his own blood. Peace be upon the bereaved and patient one. Salam upon the oppressed one who was without a helper. Salam upon the one whose rights and dignity were violated. Salam upon the one whose blood was unjustly shed. Salam upon the one who was bathed in the blood of his wounds. Salam upon the one who tasted the spears raining down over him. Salam upon the one surrounded by murderous mobs. Aywa Husayna. Salam upon the one slaughtered in public. Salam upon the one who was buried by the strangers from the villages. Salam upon the one, the defender who had no helper. Salam upon the beard which was dyed with blood. Aywa Ruqayyata wa Sukaynata. Salam upon the cheek that was covered with dust. Salam upon the butchered body of Hussein. Salam upon the front teeth that were beaten with a rod. Aywa Husayna wa madluma. Salam upon the head that was raised upon a lias. With the dawn of the 10th day of Muharram, Hussein, the grandson of the Prophet of Islam, led his followers for the dawn prayer. He then wore his grandfather's armor and turban and put on his father's sword and stood to address his small band of followers. He began by praising Allah and His Prophet. He then declared to his followers, إن الله تعالى قد أذن في قتلي وقتلكم في هذا اليوم فعليكم بالصبر والقتال. Allah has willed that you and I shall be killed today, so be strong and steadfast. The Imam rode on his grandfather's horse and began preparing for war. As his companions mobilized for battle, the army of Umar ibn Sa'd encircled the tents of Hussein. Shimr attempted to approach the camp from behind, only to find a moat filled with fire blocking him. So he screamed, "O Hussein, you have hurried to the hellfire." Hussein replied, "You are more deserving of the hellfire." Muslim ibn Awsaja wanted to shoot an arrow in Shimr's direction, but Hussein stopped him, saying, "I would hate to be the one to start the war." Umar ibn Sa'd then, the commander of the enemy's army, had come with no less than 30,000 troops. When Imam al-Hussein saw their gathering, which resembled a massive torrent, he raised his hands to the heavens and prayed, "Allahumma anta thiqati fi kulli karb wa raja'i fi kulli shidda wa anta li fi kulli amrin nazala bi thiqatun wa udda." My Lord, you are my haven in every mishap, my hope in every predicament, my refuge and defender in every ordeal. Umar ibn Sa'd then drew nearer to the camp of Hussein. He took an arrow and shot at Hussein's camp while saying, "Bear witness for me with the ruler that I was the first to shoot." The arrows then followed like rain, causing injuries to every single one of Hussein's men. Imam Hussein then called on his followers, "قوموا رحمكم الله إلى الموت الذي لا بد منه هذه السهام رسل القوم إليكم." Rise to the inevitable death. May God bestow His mercy upon you. These arrows are the messengers of these people to you. Hussein's men waged a fierce battle in defense of their leader. Many of them would fight to distract the enemy away from Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. One of those men was Abis ibn Shabib. He headed towards them. They still targeted Abu Abdullah. So in order to distract them, he took off his helmet and threw it away. He then took off his armor. He even tore his shirt up. He said, "Come to me and leave Hussein alone." They said to him, "Ajuninta ya Abis? Have you gone mad, O Abis?" He said, "Yes, inna hubb al-Hussein ajannani." The love of Hussein has made me go mad. Leave Hussein and his children alone. They fought a fierce battle, but when the dust settled, 50 of Hussein's companions lie dead on the ground. Wa Husseina wa ghariba. When Hussein saw this tragic scene, he began pleading for help. Ala hal min nasirin yansuruna. O Shi'a of Abu Abdullah, these are the words of your Imam pleading for help. ألا هل من ذاب يذب عنا? Is there no one to protect the children of Rasulullah, the women of the Messenger of God? When the women heard his plea, the sound of their wailing and sobbing rose in the camp. One by one, the companions of Hussein who had remained came forward and asked for his blessings and and permission to go fight, bidding him farewell. They defended the son of the messenger of Allah and were killed one after the other. Once all the companions were killed, there remained only the family of Bani Hashim, the family of Aba Abdullah, therefore prepared for battle. The first to come forward was Hussein's eldest son Ali al-Akbar. When he asked for his father's permission, tears began pouring out of Hussein's eyes. نظر إليه نظر آيس من وأرخى عينيه عليه السلام وبكى. He looked at him with despair and hopelessness, knowing what will happen to his boy. ثم رفع شيبته الشريفة نحو السماء. The Imam then raised his blessed beard towards the heaven and he cried out, "O God, be witness against these people, for a young man has been forced to face them who has the closest resemblance to your prophet in his nature and his manners and his speech. For whenever we yearned for your messenger, we would look at the face of Ali al-Akbar." Ali al-Akbar entered the battlefield saying, "Ana Ali ibn al-Hussein ibn Ali. تالله لا يحكم فينا ابن الدعي أضرب بالسيف أحامي عن أبي." I am Ali, the son of Hussein, the son of Ali. We will never let this man rule over us. I shall strike you with my sword to protect my father Hussein. ضرب غلام هاشمي علوي. You should know that I am Alawi. I will remind you of my grandfather's battles in Khaybar and Hunain and Badr. After a fierce battle, Ali returned to the camp to see his father one last time. He said to him, "Aba, inna al-atash qad qatalani. وثقل الحديد قد أجهدني." "Oh father, the thirst is killing me and the heavy armor overwhelms me. Is there a way to get just one sip of water?" Hussein told him the pain would soon be over, saying, "It is only a matter of time before your grandfather quenches your thirst with his eternal cup." Ali al-Akbar went back, fighting with greater valor. It was as if his grandfather Amir al-Mu'mineen was in the battlefield. Finally, the evil Murrat ibn Munqidh approached him and dealt a blow to Ali's head, causing him to fall on his horse. His blood began gushing from his sacred head and covered the horse's face. His horse, not being able to see, led Ali to the enemy camp. The troops attacked him from all directions. Thousands began striking him with their swords. فَقَطَّعُوهُ إِرَبًا إِرَبًا. They cut him into pieces. أيوا عليا وغريبا ومظلوما. Upon his death, Ali al-Akbar cried so his father could hear him. "Aba alayka minni salam." Peace be upon you, O father. Hada jaddi Rasulullah. This is my grandfather, the messenger of God. He has quenched my thirst with his eternal cup, and he says there is a cup waiting for you. he offered his grieving father consolation with these words, "Never again will I be thirsty, O father. Don't worry about me." Hussein rushed to his boy. When he arrived at his son's side, Imam al-Hussein threw himself from his horse onto his son's body. He then went down. He put his cheek against Ali's cheek. He then said these words, "Bunayya Ali, 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 على الدنيا بعدك العفا." My dear son Ali, petty on this world after you. أما أنت فقد استرحت من هم الدنيا وغمها. You have now found relief from the tribulations of this life. But why did you leave me all alone, oh my son? وبقي أبوك لهمها وغمها. Lady Zainab came out to console Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Zainab, who didn't come out when her two boys were killed, at this point came out because she feared Abu Abdullah would die of grief, calling out, "Bunayya Ali, my son Ali, my son Ali." Hussein sobbed out loud, drawing attention from the enemy who had not seen him cry like that before. Betrayed and helpless, Hussein began pleading for help. When his cries were heard, even the children answered his call. Al-Qasim ibn al-Hassan, the son of Imam al-Hassan, an orphan boy who was just 13 years old, was one of those who answered his uncle's plea. Hussein refused to give him permission at first, but Qasim begged his uncle, kissing his hands and feet, pleading for his blessings. The Imam hugged Qasim and wept, finally allowing him to go. Al-Qasim fought bravely, saying, "In tunkiruni fa-ana najlu al-Hasan." If you don't recognize me, I am the one representing Abu Muhammad al-Hassan on the battlefield today. إن تنكروني فأنا نجل الحسن سبط النبي المصطفى والمؤتمن هذا حسين كالأسير المرتهن. This is Hussein who is held like a hostage بين أناس لا سقوا صوب المزن, surrounded by people who have no mercy in their hearts. The young boy fought bravely, killing many soldiers at his young tender age, until his sandal snapped as he bowed down to fix it. Amr ibn Sa'd al-Azdi came forward. He struck him with his sword over his head. Al-Qasim cried out, "Aghithni ya Amma, uncle, come to me. Uncle, come save me from these people." Imam Hussein rushed to him, crying over his body, saying in a painful voice, "Azza wallah ala ammika an tad'uh fala yujibuk." It is painful for your uncle that you would call him, but he cannot respond. My cousins, be patient, for you shall never see disgrace after this day. When Abbas saw the death toll rising, Ajarakumullah ya mu'mineen, he stood up and ordered his brothers Abdullah, Uthman and Ja'far to enter the battlefield and fight for their brother and master Hussein. Abbas's brothers, children of Ali and al-Baneen, fought valiantly and embraced death one by one. It was now time for Abbas himself to go. He came to his brother Hussein seeking permission to go. Hussein couldn't bear to lose his brother. Tears filled his eyes. Abbas, anta kabshu katibati, anta hamilu liwa'i. You are the bearer of my flag. If you go, my army will collapse and my enemies will rejoice. Abbas replied, لَقَدْ ضَاقَ صَدْرِي مِنْ هَؤُلَاءِ الْمُنَافِقِينَ. I am tired of these hypocrites. I cannot bear to hear the sounds of the children crying out, Al-Atash, Al-Atash, Al-Atash. I wish to seek my revenge. When Hussein saw Abbas adamant to fight, he said, if you must, then go and seek some water for these children. Abbas mounted his horse. He took the water container and headed towards the river. Cutting through the enemy lines, he was surrounded by 4,000 troops who shot at him with their arrows, but he did not fear their multitudes. The standard hoisted over his head, he started attacking them until they all fled away from him. He managed to reach the river while overwhelmed with thirst. As soon as he reached the cool water, the enemy said, if he quenches his thirst, it will be the end of us. But Abbas threw the water back into the stream. Without drinking, he filled the container and walked out. To everyone's shock, no one knew why he did that. They then heard him saying, Ya nafs min ba'd al-Hussein huni, وبعده ما كنت أو تكوني هذا حسين وارد المنون وتشربين بارد المعين. Oh Abbas, you are worthless after Hussein. It makes no difference whether you live or die. Here is Hussein dying of thirst while you drink from the cool stream. Abbas would never drink while Hussein and the children were still thirsty. He filled his water sack, mounted his horse again, and headed towards his camp, bent on blocking his path. Enemy troops surrounded him from every direction. Thousands attacked him all at once. Ajarakumullah ya mu'mineen, ya sahib al-amri wal-zaman, ajarakallah. Some hid behind trees. As Abbas approached, they struck him with their swords and cut off his 2 arms. Ya nafsu la takhshay min al-kuffari wa abshiri bi rahmati al-jabbari qad qata'u bi baghyihim yasari فأصلهم يا رب حر النار. He managed to grab the water skin with his teeth, staying without his 2 arms. He headed towards the camp, but they did not give him a chance. They showered him with arrows. 1 arrow pierced the container, spilling the water from it. Another arrow pierced through his chest. Another arrow struck his eye. رحم الله من نادى وعباسا وغريبا ومظلوما فوقف العباس عباس متحيرا. Abbas simply stood still. He has no hand to fight with, no eye to see his way, no water to take back to the camp. Allahu Akbar. It is at that moment when he stood in despair, a wicked man came from behind and hit him with a metal pole on his head. Abbas then fell to the ground. I ask you, ya mu'mineen, when someone falls, what do they do to shield their face from the fall? If you have no hands, what do you do? Abbas fell to the ground. عمد الحديد بكربلاء خسف القمر. Abbas called out, أخي أدرك أخاك. Brother, come to your brother. Imam Hussain rushed to his brother Abbas, causing the enemy troops to flee from him. He chased after them, saying, إِلَىٰ أَيْنَ تَفِرُّونَ وَقَدْ قَتَلْتُمْ أَخِي. Where do you flee when you have just killed my little brother? When Hussein approached him, Abbas was lying on the sand, an arrow planted deep in his eye, another in his chest. Hussein cried out, أخي أبا الفضل الآن انكسر ظهري. My back is now broken. They say from that moment on, they could sense the break in Abu Abdullah's back. It was never straightened after Abbas. الآن انكسر ظهري وقلت حيلتي. Imam Hussein also said one more thing. وشمت بي عدوي. Do you know what that means? When Imam al-Hussein was crying over his brother Abbas, the enemy surrounded them. They began to cheer and clap. They were laughing, saying, لقد قتلنا العباس. Imam Hussein said, Abbas, my enemy is delighted now. My enemies rejoiced. The defender of Hussein is dead. Saqi al-Utasha is dead. وشمت بي عدوي من للفواطم بعدك. Who will protect the women after you? Hussein then went back to the camp all alone, wiping his tears with his shirt sleeve so the women don't see Abu Abdullah crying. He was wiping his tears with his shirt sleeve. The women rushed to him and asked him about their uncle. Zainab said, where is my brother, Ya Abu Abdullah? Where is our brother Abbas? Hussein didn't say a word. He headed towards the tent of Abbas. He removed the pillar from the tent, letting it fall to the ground, meaning Abbas is gone. Oh Zainab, يقلها يا زينب راح عباس وراح الضغم اللي يرفع الراس. Zainab and the women screamed, وأخاه وعباساه وضيعتنا بعدك. How lost are we after you? Abu Abdullah echoed that statement. He also said, وضيعتنا بعدك. We are truly lost after you. After the death of Abbas, Imam Hussain was left without any supporters. He looked around and saw nothing but dead bodies around him. He kept on saying, "Ala hal min nasirin yansuruna." Before Imam al-Hussein said his last farewell, he asked his sister Zainab to bring him his infant Abdullah al-Radi', who was just 6 months old. When he saw how the child was dying of thirst, Hussein took his child and headed towards the enemy and said, "Ya qawm, qad qataltum akhi wa awladi wa ansari." You have killed my brother, you have killed my sons and my companions. وَمَا بَقِيَ غَيْرُ هَذَا الطِّفْلِ. All I have left is this boy. وهو يتلظى عطشا من غير ذنب أتاه إليكم. He is dying of thirst and he hasn't committed any crime towards you. فاسقوه شربة من الماء أجركم الله يا صاحب الأمر. The enemy was then split. A few said feed him, while others said لا تبقوا لأهل هذا البيت من باقية. Do not spare any member of this household. Fearing dissent and insurrection in his camp, Umar looked to his chief archer Harmala. He said to him, اقطع نزاع القوم. Put an end to this disagreement. Put an end to this dispute. Harmala knew what his commander was asking of him, so he took a 3-pronged arrow that was used for hunting wild animals, and he put it in the bow, directed it in the direction of Ali al-Asghar. أيوا حسينا وغريبا ومظلوما. He shot the young infant boy. When it struck the boy's soft neck, it severed his head from the jugular vein to the jugular vein. رحم الله من نادى وحسينا وغريبا وسيدا. The infant fluttered for a moment in his father's hands, his blood gushing from his throat, before wilting and freezing. As Hussein looked on, Hussein called out, هَوَّنَ مَا نَزَلَ بِي أَنَّهُ بِعَيْنِ اللَّهِ. What makes this bearable is that it is in God's sight. The father then scooped the blood of the son. He threw the child's blood towards the sky and saying, إلهي إن كان هذا يرضيك فخذ حتى ترضى. Oh Lord, if this pleases you, then take until you are pleased. Hussein then took the slaughtered child to the camp. He went behind a tent, prayed on his dead son, then dug a small grave with the tip of his sword and buried him in his blood-soaked garment. Imam al-Hadi says in the Ziyaratul Jami'ah, As-salamu ala Abdullah ibn al-Hussein. A special salam to the youngest of Hussein's soldiers. A special salam to the greatest of the martyrs of Karbala. As-salamu ala Abdullah ibn al-Hussein, الطفل الرضيع المرمي الصريع المتشحط دما المصعد دمه في السماء المذبوح بالسهم في حجر أبيه. How small must a child be for an arrow to slaughter him from ear to ear? لعن الله رامي حرملة ابن كاهل الأسدي وذويه. Imam was now all alone. He had no choice but to charge at the enemy by himself. He is described as such. كان آيسا من الحياة. He had lost all hope in this life. They attacked him, but Hussein would defend his camp while saying, أنا الحسين ابن علي آلت ألا أنثني أحمي عيالات أبي أمضي على دين النبي. I am Hussein, son of Ali. I vow not to bow down. I am defending my family. I follow the religion of the Prophet. Abdullah ibn Ammar says, I have never seen a bereaved and grief-stricken man who has witnessed the murder of all of his children and companions, bearing the sorrow of all calamities, yet is more steadfast, brave, and courageous than Hussein. So much so that no one dared stand in his way. Hussein challenged the enemy to come and fight with him. Whoever came forward to confront him was sent to hell by Hussein's sword. So Umar ordered his troops to attack him from all directions. He said, احملوا عليه من كل جانب. يا صاحب الزمان يا حجة ابن الحسن. While there were other people in Hussein's camp, the enemy was split. They would attack this companion and that companion. But when Hussein was left alone, 30,000 of them converged on one man, on Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. رحم الله من نادى وحسينا. With your loudest voice, وغريبا ومظلوما. Thousands of enemy troops launched collective attacks against Hussein, but he fought such that they fled from him like a flock of goats fleeing from a lion. So the archers then came forward. They shot 4,000 arrows at Aba Abdullah. أيوة حسينا. Imam al-Sadiq says that the body of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein resembled a hedgehog. How many arrows pierced the body of your master, ya mu'mineen? They prevented the Mawla from reaching his family, who were now crying and sobbing. Wa abata wa akha. They needed to see Aba Abdullah one more time. But the Imam was prevented from going. So he said to them, O followers of Abu Sufyan and his family, I am the one fighting you and you are fighting me. So keep your people away from my family while I am still alive. Come and get me. Leave them alone. He returned to his camp one last time. This time was the final farewell, so he called out, Ya Sukaina, Ya Rabab, Ya Zainab, Ya Kulthum, Ya Ruqayya, هذا آخر الوداع. This is the final farewell. The women gathered around him and started wailing and sobbing aloud. Imagine your father coming and telling you, this is the last time we meet. We shall meet in paradise. Be patient after my death. You have many tragedies awaiting you, many calamities coming your way. As he was about to leave, he heard a faint voice calling him from behind. Mahlan, mahlan, Ya Hussein, Ya ibn al-Zahra. Wait up, brother, wait up, wait. There's one more thing I have to do. Abu Abdullah looked back. He saw his sister Zainab. She asked him to dismount his horse. She needs to do one last thing. It was her mother's dying wish. Fatima had told her, Zainab, I won't be there in Karbala. أفاطم لو خلت الحسين مجدلا وقد مات عطشانا بشط فراتي إذا للطمت الخد فاطم عنده. Ya Fatima al-Zahra, what would happen to you if you were there in Karbala? Zainab, you will be my representative. I want you to do something before your brother goes. Imam Hussain dismounted his horse. Zainab came forward and she kissed his throat and his chest. It's the day of Ashura. If I don't say this today, when will I say it? You all know Imam Hussain was not slaughtered from the neck. They slaughtered him from the back. Why would Zainab kiss the throat of Abu Abdullah? I'll just give you one word. One word. Karbala had 3 arrows he used on the day of Ashura. One was with Ali al-Asghar. The other he used against Abbas. And the third he used it on that neck of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. رحم الله من نادى وحسينا ومظلوما وغريبا. The Imam proceeded toward the battlefield. أيا مؤمنين يا شيعة أبي عبد الله. Confronted with an army of 30,000 men, he looked right and left, searching for helpers, only to find his companions slain like sacrificial lambs. نظر يمينا وشمالا فلم ير إلا من صافح التراب جبينا. فنادى, the Imam called out, يا أبطال الصفا ويا فرسان الهيجة, O heroes of the battlefield, O knights of warfare, ما لي أناديكم فلا تجيبون. Why do I call on to you but you do not answer? If you are asleep, then I beseech you to wake up. These are the women of the Prophet. They have been bereaved for your loss. Please rise, O noble ones, and protect the progeny from the wicked tyrants. Alas, death has prevailed over you, or else you would have supported me. ثم نادى بصوت حزين يقطع القلب. They say Abu Abdullah then called out with a voice that tore people's hearts. heart. He said, Ya Habib ibn Mudahir, Ya Muslim ibn Awsajah, يا زهير بن القين، يا نافع بن هلال، يا برير، يا زهير. Imam al-Baqir says their bodies began to shake as though they were saying, Ya Aba Abdullah, just give us permission and we'll come back to life to defend you. Give us your word, Ya Aba Abdullah. We promised that if we were to die 1,000 times, we would still protect you. Then the Imam said, Ala hal min nasirin yansuruna. ألا هل من ذاب يذب عنا. The intense crying of the women and children reached a new peak. Hussein's eldest son Sajjad, who was ill, saw his father covered with the blood of Abbas, Qasim, Zuhair, Muslim and Habib and others. He suddenly stood up while leaning on a stick and dragging his sword. Hussein shouted, my sister Zainab, keep him. احبسيه لئلا ينقطع نسل آل Muhammad. The enemy then continuously launched collective attacks on Aba Abdullah. The Imam would repeatedly say, لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Umar ibn Sa'd yelled, woe unto you, attack him while he is busy with his family. They charged at him, raining him with arrows. Imam Hussain attacked the enemy like a roaring lion, but he received many wounds all over his body. 30,000 men were now all attacking one man. Ajarakumullah ya مؤمنين. فوقف ليستريح ساعة. The Imam stopped for a second to take a rest. He was weakened by his thirst, all the wounds and his grief. Our Imam paused to rest for a moment. Suddenly a tyrant named Abu al-Hutuf hurled a rock in the direction of Abu Abdullah. Ajarakumullah ya mu'mineen. The rock hit the Imam on his blessed forehead, causing the blood to stream down his face. Abu Abdullah took his shirt, he lifted it so that he could wipe the blood off of his blessed face. That's when Karbala shot the Imam with an arrow. The arrow landed in his heart. It came out the other end. Wa Husseina. He shot him with a three-headed arrow which struck our Imam, piercing his chest, going straight through his heart. Abu Abdullah cried out, Bismillah wa billah wa ala millati Rasulillah. He then raised his head towards the sky and said, Oh Lord, Ilahi innaka ta'lamu annahum, you know they are killing a man who there is none other on the face of this earth, who is a son of the daughter of a prophet. Save him. He pulled out the arrow, causing the blood to gush out. He took a handful of blood and stained his beard, saying, This is how I want to meet my grandfather. هكذا ألقى الله وجدي رسول الله وأنا مخضب بدمي. Due to the constant attacks, our master Hussein fell to the ground from the back of the horse. أيوا حسينا without lifting his head. A man then approached Aba Abdullah and began cursing him. He then approached to strike the Imam with his sword. Ajarakum Allah ya mu'mineen. One of Imam Hussain's orphaned boys is Abdullah ibn al-Hasan. Imam Hussain had told his sister Zainab to hold his hand and to never let go. Abdullah is too weak. He can't look at his uncle in the killing pit and not do something about it. He said, hold on to him. As Lady Zainab was watching Abu Abdullah, for a second she lost control. She raised her hands and placed him on her head. Sallallahu alayk ya Rasulallah. When she left the boy's hand, the boy found his chance and ran towards Abu Abdullah. Imam Hussain never said to hold Ruqayya or Sakina or anybody else, but with Abdullah, Imam Hussain was the one who raised him. Since he was only 1 year old, he was also the orphan of Imam al-Hasan. Imam Hussain said to his sister, Ihbisi, hold him, but she couldn't do that. Ajarakum Allah ya mu'mineen. The boy ran towards his uncle Hussein to shield him from that wicked man. He sat in his uncle's lap. When the man came to strike Aba Abdullah, Abdullah ibn al-Hasan screamed, Ataqtulu ammi ibn al-Khabitha? Son of the wicked woman, you want to kill my uncle over my dead body? So instead of striking Hussein, he struck the boy on his arm. He left his arm dangling by the skin. He looked at his uncle. He said, Amma qata'u yamini. Uncle, look at what they did. They cut my arm off. Then Karbala approached and shot this boy with an arrow, killing him in his uncle's lap. وبقي الحسين مطروحا على الأرض مليا. Imam Hussain is now fatally wounded. يا صاحب العصر والزمان آجرك الله. He was left lying for some time. What prevented them from finishing him off sooner was the fact that every tribe was relying on the other to do so. Shimr yelled, why are you standing like this? The man is critically wounded. Attack him from every angle. ما وقوفكم وما تنتظرون. What are you waiting for? One man said, I was standing near Hussein as he was on the brink of death. By God, I never saw a person getting killed, soaked in his blood, in a better state than Hussein. His face was luminous. I was so overwhelmed by the radiance of his face that I refrained from contemplating killing him. He then asked for some water. He said, جدي أنا عطشان. By my grandfather Rasulullah, I'm thirsty. But they did not give him any water to drink. One man said, I came to kill him. He looked me in the eye. His eyes were exactly like the eyes of Rasulullah. The Imam then said to them, I am thirsty. One from amongst the crowd said to him, "You are not going to drink until you enter the hellfire. Then you can drink from its boiling water." The Imam replied, I will enter the hellfire. No, by God, I shall enter onto my grandfather, the messenger of God, and stay with him in a seat of honor with the most powerful king. I will then complain to him of that which you have done to me and your transgression against me. When they heard this, the enemy became furious, as if God did not instill a grain of mercy in their hearts. Now Umar ibn Sa'd, with a group of soldiers, is approaching the scene as Abu Abdullah was at the point of death. Ya mu'mineen ajarakum Allah, فحملوا عليه من كل جانب. They all attacked him from every direction. Imam Sadiq describes this scene. He says a group approached him with their swords, another with their spears, another group had nothing but rocks and sticks. They all attacked your Mawla Abu Abdullah. The Imam says, فَكَانَتِ الضَّرْبَةُ عَلَى الضَّرْبَةِ وَالطَّعْنَةُ عَلَى الطَّعْنَةِ. Every stab wound was on top of another stab wound. Every strike came on top of another strike. One man came and hit him on the shoulder. Another one came forward with his bow and arrow. He shot Abu Abdullah at close range. أيوا ويلاه ومصيبته رحم الله من نادى وحسينا. Lady Zainab was watching all of this. She cried out, Ya Umar ibn Sa'd, أيقتل أبو عبد الله وأنت تنظر إليه? How could Hussein be killed while you're staring at him? Why are you watching this? Have you no heart? تقل الشمر بالله دخيلي يا ظالم خلي خويا حسين ساعة. Lady Zainab then put her both hands over her head. She then said, ليت السماء أطبقت على الأرض. May the heavens fall onto the ground. ليت الموت أعدمني الحياة. I wish I were dead. I wish I never saw this. Shimr began going towards Abu Abdullah. As he headed towards the Imam, Zainab pleaded with him, stop, don't go. What are you doing? He came to your Mawla, O Shi'a of Hussein. When he came to the Imam, he first began kicking him. He then turned the Imam on his face, sat on his back, pulled out his dagger. Hussein, 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 Hussein. كربلاء لا زلت كربا وبلاء كربلاء لا زلت كربا وبلاء كربلاء لا زلت كربا وبلاء ما لقي عندك آل المصطفى ما لقي عندك آل المصطفى كربلاء لا زلت كربا وبلاء ما لقي عندك آل المصطفى كم على تربك لما صرعوا كم على تربك لما صرعوا من دم سال ومن حنجرة كربلاء لا زلت كربا وبلاء كربلاء لا زلت كربا وبلاء Karbala, what grief you have given us. Karbala, what grief you have given us. Blood of Hussein, Akbar and Abbas. Karbala, la zilti karban wa bala. Karbala, la zilti karban wa bala. Fatima's crying and so is heaven. Fatima's crying and so is heaven. The men were not spared, not even. The men weren't spared, not even the children. Karbala la zilti karban wa bala. 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 Karbala la zilti karban wa bala.
लाशे अकबर पेशाह जब पहुँचे दिल को हाथों में थाम कर बोले तेरी फुरकात अली अकबर आग दिल में मेरे लगा दी है आग दिल की बुझाऊं मैं कैसे आग दिल की बुझाऊं मैं कैसे तेरा लाशा उठाऊं मैं कैसे अकबर मेरा शेर अवाला अकबर अकबर जख्म दिल के दिखाऊं मैं कैसे जख्म दिल के दिखाऊं मैं कैसे तेरा लाशा उठाऊं मैं कैसे अकबर मेरा शेर लाशे अकबर पेशाह जब पहुँचे दिल को हाथों में थाम कर बोले तेरी फुरकात ने अली अकबर आग दिल में मेरे लगा दी है आग दिल की बुझाऊं मैं कैसे आग दिल की बुझाऊं मैं कैसे तेरा लाशा उठाऊं मैं कैसे अकबर अकबर मेरा शेर तू है कड़ियल जवान है बेटा बाप तेरा ज़ईफ है कितना नूर आँखों का हो गया रुखसत मुझको आता नहीं नजर खैमा लेके खैमों में जाऊं मैं कैसे लेके खैमों में जाऊं मैं कैसे तेरा ला लाशा उठाऊं मैं कैसे अकबर रे वाला तू है कड़ियल जवान है बेटा बाप तेरा ज़ईफ है कितना नूर आँखों का हो गया रुखसत मुझको आता नहीं नजर खैमा लेके खैमों में जाऊं मैं कैसे लेके खैमों में जाऊं मैं कैसे तेरा लाशा उठाऊं मैं कैसे अकबर मेरा सेहर मेरा सेहर अवाला अकबर अकबर मेरा सेहर अवाला जिसने 18 साल पाला था कैसे देखेगी वो तेरा लाशा नूर आँखों का हो गया रुखसत मुझको आता नहीं नजर खैमा तेरी माँ को बताऊं मैं कैसे तेरी माँ को बताऊं मैं कैसे तेरा लाशा उठाऊं मैं कैसे अकबर मेरा सेहरियाँ वाला अकबर अकबर मेरा सेहरियाँ वाला अकबर जिसने 18 साल पाला था कैसे देखेगी वो तेरा लाशा तेरी शादी का था जिसे अरमा कैसे झेलेगी वो तेरा सदमा तेरी माँ को बताऊं मैं कैसे तेरी माँ को बताऊं मैं कैसे तेरा लाशा उठाऊं मैं कैसे अकबर मेरा सेहरियाँ वाला अकबर अकबर मेरा सेहरियाँ वाला अकबर अकबर मेरा सेहरियाँ वाला अकबर जख्म दिल के दिखाऊं मैं कैसे जख्म दिल के दिखाऊं मैं कैसे तेरा लाशा उठाऊं मैं कैसे अकबर मेरा सेहरियाँ वाला मावा करबला दिया मावा 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 पुत्रां दिया लाशां दे टुकड़े रहियां लभदियां विच सहरावां मावां करबला दिया मावां मावां करबला दिया मावां पुत्रां दियां लाशां दे टुकड़े रहियां लभदियां विच सहरावां मावां करबला दिया मावां मावां करबला दिया मावां आखे माँ कासिम दी माते एहसान करी देर ताई लड़दा रवी तेरे टुकड़े मुताबिक वदनिया ने मेरे वीर हुसैन दी सावां मावां करबला दिया मावां मावां करबला दिया मावां आखे माँ कासिम दी माते एहसान करी देर ताई लड़दा रवी तेरे टुकड़े मुताबिक वदनिया ने मेरे वीर हुसैन दी सावां मावां ਕਰਬਲਾ ਦੀਆਂ ਮਾਵਾਂ
बाबा मैं रुल गईया तेरा सीना नहीं लभदा 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 बाबा मैं रुल गईया इंज लथे होए दूर मेंढे इंज लथे होए दूर मेंढे ओते कुरोना भूल गईया तेरा सीना नहीं लभदा बाबा मैं रुल गईया तेरा सीना नहीं लभदा बाबा मैं रुल गईया बाबा मैं खुशाम के लोकां ने तेने बाद कनीज़ विच मंगया बाबा मैं खुशाम के लोकां ने तेने बाद कनीज़ विच मनिया मैं बाबा मैं खुशाम के लोकां ने तेरे बाद कनीज़ी विच मंगया मैं गैरत सैयदा दी मैं गैरत सैयदा दी ओ वेले मर गईया तेरा सीना नहीं लभदा बाबा मैं रुल गईया तेरा सीना नहीं लभदा बाबा मैं रुल गईया तेरा सीना नहीं लभदा बाबा मैं रुल गईया इंज लथे होए दूर मेंढे इंज लथे होए दूर मेंढे होते कुनोड़ा भूल गईया तेरा सीना नहीं लभदा बाबा मैं रुल गईया तेरा सीना नहीं लभदा बाबा मैं रुल गईया जदों गल तेरे दरबार चलिया मैं कोल खलो के देंदी रही जदों गल तेरे दरबार चलिया मैं कोल खलो के देंदी रही नहीं मिले असर तेरा नहीं मिले असर तेरा उतरने कर दी रैया तेरा सीना नहीं लभदा बाबा मैं रुल गईया तेरा सीना नहीं लभदा बाबा मैं रुल गईया वो तेरा सीना नहीं लभदा बाबा मैं रुल गईया तेरा सीना नहीं लभदा बाबा मैं रुल गईया तेरा सीना नहीं लभदा बाबा मैं रुल गईया जदों गल तेरे जरबा चलिया मैं कोल खलो के देंदी रही जदों गल तेरे जरबा चलिया मैं कोल खलो के देंदी रही नहीं मिले असर तेरा नहीं मिले असर तेरा ओ तड़ले कर दिया तेरा सीना नहीं लभदा बाबा मैं रुल गईया 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 मार दिता लोकां बाबा मेरा बेरा है मार दिता लोकां बाबा मेरा बेरा है मार दिता लोकां बाबा मेरा बेरा है मार दिता पावे करबल विच बाजर दा मार दिता लोगां बाबा मेरा बेरा है मार दिता लोगां बाबा मेरा बेरा है मार दिता लोगां बाबा मेरा बेरा सैन गाजी दी वैन पावे विच करबल बाजर दा मार दिता लोगा बाबा मेरा बेरा ए मार दिता लोगा
या हुसैन 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 सब बोले बिस्मिल्लाह
या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन
या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन
या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन
उठी अकबर तेरी हम शेर का पैगाम आया उठी अकबर तेरी हम शेर का पैगाम आया उठी अकबर तेरी हम सब बोले बिस्मिल्लाह
अकबर तेरी
हम शेर का पैगाम आया उठी अकबर तेरी हम शेर का पैगाम आया उठी अकबर तेरी हम
शीर का पैगाम आया उठी अकबर तेरी हम
उठी अकबर तेरी हम शीर का पैगाम आया उठी अकबर तेरी हम शीर का पैगाम आया उठी अकबर तेरी हम शीर का पैगाम आया बाजो तेरे मुझे दुखी या को न आराम आया बाजो तेरे मुझे दुखी या को न आराम आया उठी अकबर तेरी हम
शीर का पैगाम आया उठी अकबर तेरी हम शीर का पैगाम आया उठी अकबर तेरी हम
जी रही हूँ तेरे वादे के सहारे अकबर जी रही हूँ तेरे वादे के सहारे अकबर जी रही हूँ तेरे वादे के सहारे अकबर तू न आया मेरे भाई या ना ही पैगाम आया तू न आया मेरे भाई या ना ही पैगाम आया उठी अकबर तेरी हम
का पैगाम आया उठी अकबर तेरी हम शीर का पैगाम आया उठी अकबर
हम शेर का पैगाम आया उठी अकबर तेरी हम शेर का पैगाम आया उठी अकबर तेरी हम
शीर का पैगाम आया उठी अकबर तेरी हम शीर का पैगाम आया उठी अकबर तेरी हम
क्या इसी दिन के लिए पाला था बीबी तूने क्या इसी दिन के लिए पाला था बीबी तूने क्या इसी दिन के लिए पाला था बीबी तूने मेरी शादी की जगह मौत का पैगाम आया मेरी शादी की जगह मौत का पैगाम आया अकबर तेरी हम
शीर का पैगाम आया उठी अकबर
السلام عليك يا مولاي يا صاحب الزمان آجرك الله في مصيبة جدك الحسين الله الله من رأس حسين الله الله من رأس حسين الله 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 من رأس حسين. Come on everybody, join in. The day of Ashura is ending. We are getting nearer to the time that Bibi Zainab looked out of the tent. She saw the head of Imam Hussain on a spear. The Khiyam were calling out, Allah, Allah, man ra'sa Hussein, Allah, Allah, man ra'sa Hussein. سوز فلک ز خیمه ها شور و شرار میرسد سوز فلک ز خیمه ها شور و شرار میرسد آتش دل به محمل ماه و ستاره میرسد شروع شد از خیمه ها شروع شد ز خیمه ها غارت رأس شهدا بعد جوانان حرم به شیرخواره میرسد الله الله من رأس الله الله Hussein, 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 Hussein. روی بکن به کودکم که بین نال کرده غش مگر دوباره دست من به گاهواره میرسد مگر دوباره دست من به گاهواره میرسد الله الله من رأس حسین الله الله رأس حسين الله الله من رأس حسين الله الله من رأس حسين الله الله من رأس حسين الله من رأس حسين الله 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 بسته تمام راه ها به سوی تو نگاه ها کنج خراب دخترم به راه چاره میرسد ماه بنی هاشمیان موی مرا کرده نشان نیزه خمید دو ماه من به ماه پاره میرسد الله الله من رأس حسین الله الله السلام على الأجساد العاريات سلام بر آن بدنهای برهنه روی یک زمین کربلا السلام علی الجسوم الشاحبات السلام علی الدماء السائلات سلام بر آن خونهای جاری السلام علی الاعضاء المقطعات حسین 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 الله الله من رأس حسین السلام على الرأس المرفوع السلام على مجزوز الرأس من القفا يا صاحب الزمان السلام على المنهور في الوراء السلام على ساكن كربلاء السلام على السيد الشهداء الله الله من رأس حسين Hussein, 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 Hussein. Karbala, به خیمه ها رأس حسین به نیزه ها حسین 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 به پای گل عذارها هجوم خیل خارها به پای گل عذارها هجوم خیل خارها پای پرابل چراغ به سنگ خار میرسد میشنوم به کربلا میشنوم به کربلا ناله یا بنیرا ناله یا بنیرا به نینوا نوای دل به ماه پاره میرسد الله الله من رأس حسین Hussein, 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 Hussein. السلام على مغسل بالدماء السلام على البدن السليب وغلاء الخد التريب سلام بر اون گونه های خاکالود السلام على الشيب الخذيب حسين 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 الله الله من رأس حسين يوم على صدر النبي يوم على صدر النبي يوم على وجه الثرى يوم على وجه الثرى يوم على صدر النبي يوم على وجه الثرى فریاد یا محمدا فریاد یا محمدا هذا حسين بالعراء هذا حسين بالعراء وويلا على الحرام وويلا على الحرام وويلا على الحرام وويلا على الحرام رأس حسین به نیزه ها آتش زدن به خیمه ها کنار گل های دگر گرد عزیز فاطمه اما اول فضلم چرا مانده جدا در الغمه به زخم دل نمک زدن دختراتو کتک زدن چه دید زینب حزین تن عزیز مصطفی به زیر تیغ اشقیان ناله کشید ای خدا ناله کشید ای خدا حسین 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 على العباس و ویلا حسین تنهاست و ویلا على العباس ویلا علن عباس و ویلا حسین تنها یا زینب 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 یا حیدر یا حیدر یا حیدر یا حیدر 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 یا زهرا یا زهرا یا زهرا یا مهدی یا مهدی یا مهدی السلام على الشيب الخذيب حسين 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 السلام على خد التريب یک نفر میان گودال و 100 نفر میزدن زینب را تیغ ها مانده بود در بدن و یا صاحب الزمان با سپر می زدن زینب را هرچه او بیشتر نفس می زد بیشتر می زدن زینب را ای حسین میگه یه وقت دیدم لبهای حسین داره به هم میخوره رفتم جلو دیدم حسین داره مناجات میکنه الهی ردن برضائک لا معبود سواک همچین که خون فوران کرد از قلب مبارک صدا زد یا غیاث المستغیثین حسین اگر کشتن چرا آبت ندادن تو را زان در نایابت ندادن اگر کشتن چرا خاکت نکردن کفن بر جسم صد چاکت نکردند به ابی المستضعف الغریب یا سیدنا المظلوم یا ابا عبدالله به اضطرار بی زینب از بالای تل داره میبینه یا الله 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 یا رحمان یا رحیم یا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دینک واکفنا یا قاضی الحاجات و یا کافی المهمات انك على كل شيء قدير برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين للأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة مع الصلوات.
Brothers and sisters, there's food to take out, so on your way, please collect your food. And inshallah, we will have Majlis Ghariba at 8:30 as usual. We will start with Quran and Ziyarat Ashura, and we will have Bajamaat Salat, and then we will have lecture. So inshallah, we see you this evening, 8:30. There is a request for dua. Brother Imtiaz Hussain, he's going through his bypass operation. So just please remember him in your duas.